But Rob, for those new and joining us for the very first time here, welcome to First Strike. It's
Welcome.
a passion of ours, right? We love this. We love talking the fight game.
Welcome to First Strike, only on VSiN, the sports betting network. Here's your hosts, Dave Ross and Rob Moreno.
We are back. Yes, the return of First Strike. Oh, man, we are pumped for this. Dave Ross alongside Rob Moreno here on this Monday. Rob, it's so great to be back with you, my friend. Look, for those that know who we are and what we've done here at VSiN through the years, First Strike has been a staple for MMA fans here. We're obviously going to try to get you the best information before every fight card. But Rob, for those new and joining us for the very first time here, welcome to First Strike. It's
Welcome.
a passion of ours, right? We love this. We love talking the fight game. We're going to be doing this with a cast of characters that people will remember from years past. But I'm really excited to have you with me each and every week. On Monday, you and I will take a cursory look ahead of what's coming up for the fight weekend. And, of course, on Friday, we'll break that down even further. For those that don't know, Rob, I love saying El Modelo with you. Tell the people about the model and how you began to start modeling fights.
So, man, this goes back to early First Strike days, 2023 specifically. It was actually around the summer, August, I think it was specifically. And, man, working with the minds that we got to work with on First Strike, it was just I wanted to sharpen my MMA betting game. Mm-hmm. And I had already been interested in data modeling, predictive modeling. I had tried a couple other sports, but I don't know those sports the way I know the UFC.
Right.
I don't know those sports, so I didn't know where to look, what to attack. And talking to guys, obviously we have to shout out Reed Kuhn, the godfather of data modeling for MMA, and listening to his mind every single week. I was like, man, I want to give that a shot. Read everything I could find on the internet as far as just predictive modeling, applied it to the UFC a little bit. And, you know, I've got this little baby, as you nicknamed El Modelo, and it's been running well. You know, 2023 was definitely a testing period for it, but, you know, we had a full calendar year of 2024, ran well, and this year we're doing well as well.
And that's why I love it, right? This isn't something that just started up 6 weeks ago. You've now had 2 years, really. First year to kind of learn the system with the model, and then last year actually putting that into real practice and getting some actionable plays out there. And I'm so glad you brought that up about Reed Kuhn. For those that don't know, is the author of the book Fightnomics. We'll have Reed on this program here, as you're accustomed to as First Strike fans, and the different styles of handicappers that we bring you on First Strike. So there's so many different angles to approach. Lou Fittecaro, who have every Friday, I'm going to have him on VSiN by the Book, shameless plug for me and Jensen Lewis each and every weekday there. He always joins us on Friday, and you know this, Lou loves to look at those weigh-ins, right? We're going to have Britton Hess on, who is the first producer of First Strike on Friday. Britton really likes to get into strength of schedule. So there's so many different factors before you get to the window on an MMA fight that I think that's what the range of First Strike guests that we're going to do each and every week. That's what they're going to bring to you. You know me, I'm a big eye test guy, man. Like I'm like, you know, I watch this fighter lose this. I know MMA math does not always go A to B to C and down the line, but I do like to do that. So there's so many different ways from a predictive model standpoint that you have, from Lou, what he sees with the eye test at the weigh-ins, Britton with the strength of schedule. I think there's many different ways to get to those outcomes.
100%. I mean, and all those things you mentioned are things, you know, it's not all can be applied numerically, but
right.
they are things that I try to take into account each and every week that there's a fight card. And I love that, you know, we get to, every match is its own matchup, right? You know, the NFL, the Chiefs are the Chiefs week to week for the most part. I get it. There's injuries, but match to match, you have a unique set of data against another unique set of data that we get to put against each other and create a whole different outcome.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. Again, when we have Reed on, Reed is not as big of a sides, let's say, for a totals, right? It's not going to be, sometimes the models aren't going to predict those over-unders, and that's where I'm going to get into, like, the pathways to victory for fights. You know me, I like to try to examine those and figure out what are the likely handicaps here. And there could be two-way handicaps for fights, that if fighter A is going to win, it's probably going to be TKO type finish here, KO, TKO. If fighter B is going to win, it might be via decision. So you can look to those method of victories to try to squeeze those numbers even more. Is the model showing up on those on totals, or is it more sides right now, Rob?
It's currently more sides, very similar to what Reed's looking at. I've tried a little bit with rounds and inside the distance props, things like that.
Yep.
It hasn't been quite sharpened enough to really play properly every single week. So right now I've been sticking to sides, but I do apply, and especially some of these fight night cards, for example, this week, there's a lot of huge favorites, and sometimes that's just the way the model sees it. So I do try to apply the data that I see into method of victories and find those props in order to shorten those prices.
All right. So again, would you ever go against the model? Like if the model says one thing and Rob, you're like, no, this can't be. I've got to go the other way here. Would you just stay away if for some reason your mind says something than what the model spits out to you?
So I've tried to teach myself not to go against the model. I try to teach myself it's smarter to stay away, right? I think we've said that in sports betting in general.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the smartest move is the one you don't make, but I have faded it. And sometimes it's just because of the number, right? And I'm like, I'm not going to lay that number. I don't know how this actually, our most recent pay-per-view was a great example. DDP against Chimaev, right? Yep. The model liked Chimaev, but he was too big a favorite. And I thought, man, if this can, ironically, if I thought that went 5 rounds, I thought DDP had a shot. And so, and I was also watching the fights at Stadium Swim. And so there was a lot more elements involved, but
a lot of things going on.
And I'm like, I got to have something on the main event. And I faded the model. And oh my gosh, that could have been more wrong because Chimaev he manhandled. DDP wasn't even in the octagon at the time.
No. And again, we're always going to be transparent about our plays here when we do First Strike here on our recaps on Mondays. That one, I did have the over. That was a strong play for me. And Rob, I thought it was done 10 seconds in. I was like, what are we doing here? Did you really just, I just said, what's happening here? But luckily, DDP was able to survive and get that thing over the posted total. And I did sprinkle a little bit on him late. And he did have a shot in that 5th round.
That 5th round was crazy.
Right, all of a sudden,
my heart was racing. I was like, "Oh my god, is this going to be one of the greatest finishes in title history?" But it wasn't.
So I still don't know how he got two crucifixes. He survived 2 crucifixes against Chimaev. So I don't know how I cashed that over that day, but we'll take those. Sometimes we always forget and get the bad beats. Remember those because that was a good win. That after the way that thing started, I don't know that I felt pretty good about it. This fight card is going to be over in France this weekend here. Nassourdine Imavov against. This is going to be Benoit Saint-Denis, and we're seeing right now Denis is going to be in that co-main event here against Mauricio Ruffi. Imavov, of course, going up against Caio Borralho, the Brazilian. And the Brazilian is a small favorite right now at $1.30 in that co-main event, as you can imagine. Those Brazilian right now, the Fighting Nerds, we're seeing Mauricio about 205. When you see those numbers right now with 2 Brazilians favored over there against 2 French fighters, does the venue ever sway? I know the numbers are going to be hard to calculate that, but when I see that and I go, man, Brazilians favored on the road in a true road test, we know what sometimes these crowds can be like in England at the O2. Does that factor in at all this week?
I try not to think too much into them. Obviously, if I'm looking at a fight that I could potentially see a clear decision, of course, I'm going to try to at least worry about that internally and try to maybe I pull a little bit back on who I'm betting. Obviously, depends on what side I'm on.
Right.
But sometimes I try not to overthink it. Like Benoit Saint-Denis and Mauricio Ruffi, I didn't know this, but I looked into their wins. Ruffi's the only one with the decision, surprisingly, in his entire career. Wow. Benoit Saint-Denis doesn't have a win by decision in his career. They've all been by finish. So am I going to worry about the crowd when most likely this fight's going to be a finish? Probably not. I'm just going to look at the side I like and go for it. In the main event, same thing. These guys hit hard too. That's like, I don't think they want to wait for a decision. Imavov has been on a tear, so is Borralho. So I try not to factor it too much. Obviously, that's not something we can numerically factor into the model.
Right.
But you're right. Sometimes it's even just time zone difference, body difference. When are these guys getting in there? Are these guys accustomed to going across many, many time zones? I mean, heck, right. I get jet lag just going 3 time zones over trying to schedule this with you. I'm like, what time is it for Dave? What time is it for me? So I can't imagine having to perform at my athletic eliteness just hours and hours in completely different time zones.
And Rob, I look at this too, and there's one fight on the main card that is really perplexing for me. It's 2 fighters that I really like to back. Paul Craig, which I shouldn't have backed him as many times as I have, and we know he's going to be an underdog. He always is these days, and he's a big underdog against Modestas Bukauskas. Now, full disclosure, I had Modestas on a show I did about a year and a half ago. I have an affinity for the guy, and he's really turned his career around here. But I look at that and I go, should Modestas be a 345 betting favorite against the Scotsman here in Paul Craig. And again, I think Modestus is fighting maybe at the highest level we've seen in quite some time, but it's always dangerous if the fight hits the ground. Again, we'll get into the stylistic matchups on Friday. We'd really break down this card in earnest, but it's fights like that I kind of go, man, I don't know if I want to lay 345 on a favorite that if the fight goes down to the ground, you could see a pathway for Paul Craig.
100% agree. I mean, I think this is actually a rare card for the model where it actually points out a lot of dogs. It's usually favorite heavy, and I find some value on dogs, but in this scenario, it's pointing towards dogs a lot, and I think it's just this huge split in favorites. I mean, yeah, you're right. Minus 345 for Modestus. I mean, minus 130 on Caio Borralho is the best odds we have on the main card, right? If you're leaning towards a favorite.
And very quickly, so I don't want to give away the store here until we get to Friday's show. And we actually, the model gives us the official pick, and I'll give you my picks on the main event and the co-main event and any spots that we really think that we find some value on. But when I see that as tightly aligned as it is, and I look at Imavov as a guy that I've backed a lot, Rob, and cashed a lot of tickets on, but Caio is kind of that different level striker, right? What stylistic matchup do you think we're seeing? Are these two guys going to bang it out for potentially 5 rounds?
I think so. I mean, Imavov's that knockout of, mind you, it's a different version of Israel Adesanya, but it still looked impressive. He hadn't been put down on the ground that way in a while. And I mean, it was equally impressive when DDP subbed him. I think it's just a different version of Adesanya. It's hard to really paint that picture, but you still got to give the man credit. He went in there and put him on his ass. I mean, Imavov's been hot, but Borralho, it has been a year off for him. I think that's what I was trying to remind myself when I was like, where is he in the division? Has he lost recently? No, he just hasn't fought. He's actually undefeated in the UFC. He has, and something we can talk about either today or Friday, but XR percentage. I'm huge on XR percentage, expected rounds won in a match. Borralho is at 74%. That's very high. Obviously, he dominates a lot of fights, especially when you're undefeated in the UFC. That stat's going to be high. But Imavov's at 60%, and he's got losses. He's had some wars, so that's equally impressive. It's a striking match. I mean, there's takedowns between the both of them, but they both have decent takedown control, so I don't think it's going to be the main thing they're going to focus on. You're talking about 9 takedowns each for them. Borralho has a lot of control time, though. He loves managing the cage, holding you up. 82% control time in the clinch and the ground for Borralho. So it's going to be a tough match. I think striking is where they're going to want to lean, but I don't know if that's where they'll stay the entire time.
Oh, if we get 5 rounds of those two guys banging it out, that would be great main event drama. I think we would see there. I don't think we expect the co-main to go very long here with Benoit Saint-Denis against Mauricio Hufi. But if you could drag Hufi into the deeper rounds, and again, we'll get to some of those round totals once they get populated as the week goes. Like, Rob, that could be an angle if you didn't necessarily just want to back the dog.
100%. And I think round totals actually came up this morning. We got 1.5 for Saint Denis and Hufi, minus 166. So it is favored to go over 1.5. But as I mentioned, I mean, Saint Denis is probably the more rounded fighter. I mean, Hufi I don't believe he has a single takedown attempt in his career, at least his UFC career. Now, something to note to the people listening is that the model, very similar to, and this is something I learned from Reed, I wait for 3 fights of fight data before entering a fighter into the model. That's just to have a good body of work. And even sometimes 3 fights isn't 3 fights, as we've learned. 3 fights could be 3-round knockouts for some of these guys, especially these fight nerds. These guys get out there quick. They handle business very quickly. But for Mauricio Hufi, very similar. It's what are we going to see for the first time in the model? But he doesn't have any takedowns attempted in the UFC, but he's also never given up a takedown. But Saint Denis, as we know, he can submit guys. He's a little more well-rounded. So as you mentioned, if he can drag this out into a more 3-round war, essentially, can he make something of it? Can he get the crowd behind him, kind of like you mentioned, and really start to put the fight to Hufi? Because a lot of these fight nerds, I think that's what we hope for all of them, really. It's like, okay, what if it goes more than 1 or 2 rounds? Where are they at now? Because these guys just get out of there quick.
And so you mentioned it here with the Fighting Nerds and Borralho, with that total now seeing populated at 4.5. And it's juiced to the over at minus $1.54 as we talk on a Monday. Like, Rob, that really surprises me. It seems like to me, just at first blush, and we'll get those official picks on Friday, that underplay at plus $1.20 if you didn't want to pick a favorite in a tight line here with Imavov and Borralho, root for violence, if you get 5 rounds of Rock'em Sock'em Robots, that under could very well be in play at 4.5 at plus money at plus $1.20. So again, there's going to be a lot of international flavor up and down this card, Rob. Very quickly before we sign off for this Monday edition, is there any other fight that you've already identified on a Monday and said, you know what, I don't want to wait for these numbers to move. I better grab that now?
Yes, actually. We got, you know what, let's just go, because it's the way I like to start my fight card sometimes, and it's a dog way at the bottom. The women's bout, Shauna Bannon versus Sam Hughes.
Yep.
I'm actually taking the dog there. I'm going with Shauna Bannon. The model likes her. Once again, first time entry into the model. But we kind of know what we get out of Sam Hughes already.
That's right.
We kind of know who she is, where she goes. Shauna's she's actually got a very young career in general, not just in the UFC. She made her debut, I believe, in 2022. So, I mean, we're not talking a very long UFC or even MMA career. Hughes has been around a little bit, so she's been tested, but she's been very inconsistent. Bannon, 2-1 in the UFC, but a 57% XR percentage. Obviously, with the loss, that kind of ticks her down. But Sam Hughes has already dropped below 50% XR percentage. And usually I kind of tag that as a flag for me. She's only at 49%, but if she's losing more rounds than she's winning, that's a huge concern, especially in women's MMA where there's not a ton of finishes. Each one of these women does have one finish in their UFC career, but you never know how much to weigh that in women's MMA.
Right.
Hughes she has a couple takedowns in her career, but she has 10 takedowns over, and it's at 32% accuracy. I'm not weighing that. It's probably a lot of attempting to take people down and getting there eventually. And Bannon's takedown defense, it's only 43%. So there could be a concern there. But I think Bannon's kind of coming in the fresher fighter, as in the younger fighter, and trying to move her way up along the women's rankings, where Sam Hughes, I think we've already seen what we get out of her. And it's a very small score from the model, and I can explain that some other time on how I measure those scores. She measures very low, 19, but at plus 285, I think I saw her this morning.
Yep.
That's a nice little bite. And I mean, as we start, this is a morning fight card for us here in the U.S. That's a great way to start the day. Instead of rooting for, a minus 250 favorite, why don't we start the day rooting for plus 280 underdog?
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought Sam Hughes, she should not be close to a $4 betting favorite, minus 360 against
360.
Bannon. I'm with you. And I always say this, Rob, you know this, when I was still in Las Vegas, I'm now out here at the VSiN studios in Franklin, Kentucky. What's the model say? And I like it when my handicap goes to the Bannon side of plus 285 and the model agrees. So maybe a quick early lean here, people, on a Monday to look early on that fight card in France. Very quickly, one fight I'd just be a little bit nervy about. I like William Gomis a lot, and it's a home fight for him, but he's a 250 betting favorite in this one against Robert Uchala. But here's the problem. The total is sitting at 2.5. Look at the juice, Rob. Minus 280 to go over. What's that tell you? This fight's going to hit the cards. I don't like being on 250 betting favorites if it's going to hit the card. So a little bit nervy. Again, look at those price points here on a Monday. If that number comes down on the Gomis side, I might look to Gomis by decision and get that closer to a pick'em price instead of laying 250 for a fight that more than likely at minus 280 is going to go all 3 rounds. All right, Rob, it's so great to have First Strike back. We're going to have Britton Hess, right? Is he coming up on Friday?
I got to call him, but yeah. He can't
say
Britton,
no. You're coming on the program. Rob's going to be calling
if you're listening. I'll just send him the podcast, and this will be my formal request. But
there you go.
Yeah, we got to get the band back together.
No doubt. We're going to have all of our usual cast and characters. Certainly guys like Lou Finicaro and Reed Kuhn, Jordan Sherwood, Dan Vreeland. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Rob, really appreciate your contribution to it as well with El Modelo. So tell the people where they can find you as the week goes.
So I'm on Twitter at @TheRobio. We'll put it in the show notes as well. I also do a separate podcast where I kind of really go into numbers. I kind of really nerd out. I call that Fighting with Numbers. You can find that every Wednesday, every single week that there's a fight card. And yeah, that's where you can check me out.
Love it. And again, you guys can get me at DRoss Sports on X as well. But for Rob Moreno, I'm Dave Ross. First Strike is back, and we'll see you again on Friday.